Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Cape Lead Revolution. This is Chachi with kind of a cool news segment to Leaders with Leaders, to where, huge shout out to Air Force Global Strike Command. Their public affairs office reached out and said, hey, we kind of have a unique situation here, and we have two individuals that we think would be great for your podcast. We definitely want to highlight these two, because in the United States Air Force, every year they have a thing called the 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year, and they take the 350 some airmen throughout the Air Force, and they whittle it down to 12 and say these are our top 12 performers for this whatever year. Well, as it turns out, in Minot, North Dakota, in back-to-back years inside the same squadron, we had back-to-back 12 OAY winners. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome to the Cape Lead Revolution Senior Master Sergeant Wilfred, Freddie Morgan, and Senior Master Sergeant Phil McAlpin. Freddie, Mac, welcome to the Cape Lead Revolution, guys.
Woo! Thanks for having us. This is a great opportunity.
Oh, man. So I'm super excited to have you here. I know, we got to know a little bit about each other last Friday when we spoke. And so I've been super excited for this. What I would like to do before we kind of explore you and your career and your thoughts of leadership and how it's turned out, I would like for each one of you just to take some time to tell the world who you are. And Freddie, we'll go ahead and start with you, my friend.
What's up, everyone, teammates? How you doing? I'm Freddie, Senior Master Sergeant Morgan. Originally from Washington, D.C., born and raised in Washington, D.C. Washington football team fan, yes, I am. Grew up of two parents that migrated from Sierra Leone, enlisted into the Air Force in 1999. From that point on, I enlisted as a weapons troop. So I was stationed at Shaw Low bombs and missiles on F-16s. During that time, I had opportunity to deploy to PSAB during 9/11. Shortly after return, I cross-trained into the engineer community, where I became an electrician. Through that time, I was stationed at McGuire Air Force Base. Got some great opportunities to deploy. Been to Iraq a few times, did a humanitarian during Katrina. Also stepped out of career field for a short stint to become a military training leader. Was one of my best jobs. United States Air Force had an opportunity to build and lay the foundation for so many airmen. Throughout my time in the Air Force, I've been blessed to be at Shaw Air Force Base, McGuire Air Force Base, Fort Meade, Osan, Aviano, over in PACAF for some time at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, Hickam, and now here at the home of the Global Striker, Minot Air Force Base. So that's just a quick stint about me, Chachi.
Awesome. Well, welcome. Happy to have you here, Freddie. And Mac, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, first off, how do I follow that? Yeah. Love you, brother. Hey, I'm Senior Master Sergeant McAlpin, go by Mac. Came in the Air Force in August of 2001. Been to several duty locations and had a pretty diverse and opportunistic career from my time going and being in the civil engineer community. Just a traditional dirt boy, making big rocks into smaller rocks, to laying concrete and asphalt, take care of the base infrastructure, to my time in the Red Horse community, where I was privileged to be a part of the airborne Red Horse flight. Got to go to a lot of cool opportunities and experiences within that flight. Deployed 7 times, most recently to Syria in 2017. And from there, just kind of grew with the opportunities that were presented to me. Just came back just graduated from the year-long Army Sergeant Major's Academy at Fort Bliss, Texas, with Class 70, Lead the Change. And now I'm currently the Senior Enlisted Leader, Squadron Superintendent for the 460th Civil Engineer Squadron here at Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado.
Nice. Well, welcome, Mac. Happy to have you guys here. And again, it was really fun for me. A lot of the people that I have on my podcast, I've known, at least conversationally, for at least a few months, if not several years, because I've been retired for a year and a half now. So I mean, I really had a lot of fun, just tons of laughs getting to know you guys on Friday, as we sat here and prepped for this. And so we'll just kind of, as we get to the 12 OOI, we'll kind of build there. But, the thing that we mentioned Friday was my goal through the podcast is to try and humanize some of these senior leadership positions, right? Because a young airman coming in today, may not talk to a senior master sergeant or a chief, right? And you're that kind of unreachable entity whose office resides in the front of the squadron, and you're just there to send out emails, right? And help, help when things go poorly, right? And so not realizing that, you have families, you grew up differently, and there's just so much to it that I wanted to give people an opportunity to do that. So Mac, we'll kind of start first question with you is, why did you join the Air Force?
Well, growing up in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it was pretty much, hey, I'm going to graduate high school and probably do landscaping or something. I just wanted something a little bit bigger than what was traditionally found in the Philadelphia area. Went to a recruiter and found myself in front of Tech Sergeant Gashi, who just kind of steered me along saying, what the Air Force can provide. And I was immediately drawn to it. Not only that, but my uncle served in the Air Force for 22 years. And he kind of encouraged me as well, great institution, great quality of life, and you still get to get after it. So.
That's awesome. Freddie, how about you?
Wow, how did I join the Air Force, or why did I join the Air Force? Growing up in DC in the late 80s or mid 90s, something I never thought I would. I didn't come from a family background in the military. I was the first to actually join the military, but was going to a community college. I can't even tell you what I was going to the community college for, but it just didn't sit right. We were going through a lot of different things in DC at the time, and some of my friends, unfortunately, were either getting shot, caught up in drugs, all sorts of different things. But something in me just knew it was something different for me. So again, going to community college, went to go speak to the recruiter. And I think literally after speaking to the recruiter, I was in BMT within 3 weeks. That's how fast the turnaround was for me, to the point that I didn't even know what my job really was. I didn't find out till I got to tech school. But the main reason I joined, like most people, just kind of needed some change. I was hopeful in what the world had to offer for me, but I just felt like where I was at in my current circumstance, it wasn't there, so I just decided to leave, see what happened. And when I enlisted, I thought I could enlist for only 2 years until I got the recruiter's office. She's like, nah, buddy, at least do give me 4. Yeah. So I did that for 4 years and decided to re-enlist, but I just know I needed a change of environment and perspective in the life.
You bet. And that's, there was something similar for me. I knew I needed structure. All my friends were going off to college, and I would have partied out and flunked out, and I knew I needed something. I needed structure, and I needed to jump out of airplanes, right? And those are my 2 criteria for joining the Air Force. So Freddie, kind of going back to you as a follow-up now, from what your career has done, for where you have gone, imagine going back to the recruiter's office and seeing yourself in there. What would you say to the youngest version of yourself for what the Air Force had in store?
I would say get excited. Again, I wasn't sure about what that looked like, but get excited. And what I also think about is if I had to talk to my younger self, be open to stretch my rubber band. A lot of times you only know what you've been involved with or what you've seen, right? So sometimes, depending on where you're from, it could be a cap on you. So sometimes you're afraid when that cap's off to kind of get out and just start blooming a little bit. So I would say, I would tell myself, be yourself. That's something I had to learn how to do. I was trying to play a lot of different roles and be something I wasn't initially, but be yourself and be willing to stretch your rubber band, try something brand new, do things that you never thought you really would ever try. Again, being in DC, the cap was on top of my head and I didn't know it. People were telling you, oh, you can't do this, you can't be this, you can't try that. But, coming into the Air Force and seeing all that, there was times initially where I was very apprehensive with getting out and trying new things, stretching my own personal rubber band so I can grow more, learn more, get involved with things that I hadn't experienced in the DC area. So I would tell myself, hey, jump in it ASAP and just be yourself and jump in it ASAP and stretch your rubber band so you can grow.
Awesome. Love it. Mac, how about you?
So something I got caught in, like the trap of, hey, I'm going to come in still kind of getting used to the military lifestyle was I was doing I went into a trend of, hey, Monday morning, hey, what are we doing Friday? Hey, I know exactly what we're doing. We're going to end up drinking and wake up sometime around Sunday afternoon. And for a long time, that was just a common practice. So one, what I would like to emphasize is you earn your reputation every day. And if you start it early enough as an airman, you can learn and grow professionally very quickly. And especially in the blink of an eye, we all know and see every day, especially with the younger airmen, that they quickly transition from, the airmen and wrench turners or worker bees to those who are leading airmen. So that reputation could potentially follow you. I just hope that if I had this conversation with me, I would have woke up and just said, hey, time out, where do you want to take this career? And I'm glad I made that decision. But once I cognitively thought about it, it was easy to see, like, hey, where exactly am I coming short? So if I worried about that stuff earlier, granted, I had a great time. I had a lot of great life experiences, but there's got to be some sort of stopping point in order to grow, and you have to think about that.
You bet. And, I definitely on that piece. Well, Freddie, like the whole stretch your rubber band piece, like I absolutely love it, right? And again, the thing that we talked about Friday is like people, we put out a career pyramid, right? And you need to grow, and this is what a career looks like. Nobody's career looks like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this is like a rough order of magnitude of maybe possibly the shit that you should try and do to help yourself find success in the Air Force. But your careers were different for all three of us. Yes. Right. And so I think that's absolutely huge. And then the whole part of you earn your rep every day, I liked, but then you earn your rep whether you're trying to or not.
Oh yeah.
Like I wish I wasn't trying to. And when I was a young airman, having that same Friday through Sunday blur of fun, we'll just say it that way, fun. I was building a rep that I didn't necessarily like. And so,
exactly.
so that I think is an absolutely phenomenal point. And so like the one last part that I'll kind of bring up there is some we'll talk more about scar tissue later because I do feel it's important. But from a young airman, I was frustrated that my bosses just treated me like a piece of shit airman who didn't know anything, right? Hey, new guy, shut up until you know something. When you know something, you can have an opinion. And even then, I don't want to hear your opinion type thing, right? And that's it. It's like, hey, just show up, take out the garbage, do what you're told, don't ask questions, stuff like that. And like, going back, there wasn't one boss in that first year or two that ever looked at me like I could do something inside the Air Force.
Yeah.
That I could have eventually known stuff and grown and progressed and eventually make chief, right? And all that stuff. Did you guys suffer the same fate? How did that work out for you? And or hopefully did you have bosses who didn't do that, who focused on you right away? And Mac, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I absolutely have several examples of stuff that I just couldn't stand as a younger airman. Like, for instance, when we used to shine our boots and, have them starched and pressed and all that. When I arrived to one of my duty stations as a young airman, I got kind of put at attention by a not so mature NCO, and they decided to scuff my boots that were nice and polished. And it was kind of like, seeing if they would get a reaction, which I was just like, at that point, yeah, you're going to get a reaction because that's ridiculous. But also I will say that it's almost like a 50-50 split with me, because for every, or maybe even 70-30, for every one that was a complete pain in the ass and that I couldn't absolute stand, I had 7 or 8 or 9 that were like trying to guide me in the right path. Granted, like I said, I was kind of a thick-skulled, dirt boy airman, to where like, hey, you need to knock this stuff out. It just wasn't a priority for me at the time. But, the more I reflect back, and like I said earlier, you earn your reputation every day. If I would have taken some of them small steps that they were trying to give me and guide me, who knows where I'd be right now in my career growth and life experiences. So that I would say it's not even a balance. For one bad one, there's going to be 7 to 10 good ones. But also, I would recommend seeking those good ones out, because it's too easy to get caught in the negative mindset and situation that someone's putting you in. Sometimes you just got to break loose and then kind of find your path.
You bet. Love it. Love it. Freddie, how about you?
Well, for me, I came in, not saying I needed structure. I think my parents provided some real solid structure for me. But I came in on the flight line. So, at the time, on the flight line, you got TOs. So it's left, right, left, what I'm saying, following TOs. But I would say, something that sticks out to me in the conversation was the stripe that I struggled with. Staff sergeant was the stripe I struggled with the most. You will have a good idea. You're like, I don't know, he's staff sergeant, but don't let you get in any trouble. Oh, you're a staff sergeant. You should know better. So that was something I struggled with quite a bit. But it wasn't until I first person in my career, I would say, really poured into me was at the time was Tech Sergeant Albert Benjamin, who is now Chief Master Sergeant Albert Benjamin, but really poured into me and really kind of reshaped and allowed me and empowered me. He saw some of the strengths that I showcased within our team, and allowed me and encouraged me to be myself and bring that on to help develop. So it was, for me, the first time I really got developed. Then once I got to become an MTL, the leadership there really empowered me. And I know Chief Stosh used to tell this about me all the time, saying that, hey, you just got to give him something and allow him to do his thing with it. The overarching over my head type of thing really was frustrating. But becoming an MTL was an opportunity for me to really change my mindset and utilize some of the things that I saw Tech Sergeant Benjamin at the time pour into me, so I could help folks. So I would say staff was the stripe that I struggled with the most. And I guess that's part of me leaning into some of my scar tissue a little bit. But to have an individual like that kind of reshape me and pour into me and allow me to be myself and encourage and develop, individuals I had opportunity to supervise, which was a big deal. I remember being on the flight line. I used to tell people all I want to do was be a senior airman, because at the time when I initially came in, the senior airman was running things on the flight line. Until I became a senior airman, they were like, oh, you got to get that staff stripe on first. But that's just a little some notes that I have for you.
Nice. You know what, fair. And now that's come up twice, let's talk about scar tissue, right? And so if anyone out there has listened or watched my podcast before, I'm a huge fan of talking about scar tissue. And that's just simply the fact that you were hurt, wronged in some way from a previous boss or teammate, and now you have a very adverse reaction when that situation or circumstance happens again, and you immediately see red, right? So there are certain things that happen that absolutely, the minute one small thing happens, I go through the roof and I'm ready to kind of chop heads off. And the thing that I think is important to talk about it is that as leaders, we may be unwittingly, inadvertently be hitting the hot buttons of our people and sending them through the roof without us even knowing it. And so if either of you have any scar tissue that you would want to discuss, again, like not trying to dime out people, right? But just different events or things that have happened. Let's go with that. And Freddie, we'll start with you.
Some of the things I first think about was, again, I believe all of us come in so hopeful, looking to do more, seek more. And unfortunately, you just don't know because you haven't been in the Air Force. And unfortunately, some of the scar tissue that sticks out to me was individuals only taking certain people and developing them. And I'm like in the background, like, I want some, please tell me, help me. I want to be better. Yeah. And unfortunately, not getting certain opportunities, not getting developed or poured into, even to a point where in order to become an MTL, there was a process. And I saw an individual directly pull a member to the side and work them through the process. And then at the point in my career, it was said that, hey, man, if you want to do something, well, I heard him tell him, the other member, to say, like, man, if you want to be go farther along in the Air Force, maybe you should do a special duty. You know, there's a lot of growth there. And he was talking to him. So I'm just listening in the background, like, okay, maybe I should do a special duty. And that's why I ended up in the MTL world. But I give a lot of kudos out to my teammate. I call him my workout partner, Senior Master Sergeant Damian Davies out at Spangdahlem Air Force Base, who actually helped me through the process. And I actually give him a ton of credit of me becoming an MTL because he walked me through that process. But I would say some of the scar tissue for me is that, again, all of us are hopeful, excited to be in the military, but sometimes individuals only pick certain people to pour into, and everybody's seeking it. And without really getting with me, building a connection, understanding my strengths and weaknesses, they never helped me get to a point where I was trying to develop too. So sometimes when I see that right now, you could be in random meetings and sometimes people are like, oh yeah, this person. I always believe if you share the information, the law of averages are going to come out. You can share the information. Those individuals that really want that opportunity, really want to do it, it's pure to them. They're going to take the opportunity. So you don't really have to just give it to a specific person. You can share it. And at the end of the day, one thing you could do is once you share the information, nobody could tell you, well, I didn't know. Now I told everybody. But that's some of the scar tissue that always, gets that bell going off in my head for me.
You bet. Fair enough. Thanks, Freddie. Mac, how about you?
So I had the privilege and opportunity to get selected to be a airborne instructor at Fort Benning, Georgia, jumping out of planes, teaching people how to effectively fall out of a perfectly good aircraft. Got to do it for over 3 years. And what was sold to me was, hey, we're going to send you, you have all this experience in airborne Red Horse. We're going to send you with the Army to become an airborne instructor. And then we're going to bring all that experience back to the contingency response group in Germany. And I was just like, hell yeah, I'm sold, let's do it. So roughly around 3 months prior to my expected departure date, I get an email. And it's, hey, the powers that be, we're thinking in order for you to grow and develop, you need to have more experience in a traditional prime beef unit because you've been Red Horse and had these crazy experiences your entire career. So from going potentially to Germany to being redirected to Minot, North Dakota, I would say I was a little bit jaded. So my scar tissue, I would think, is exercising proper talent management, but then explaining the 30,000 foot view to better understand why these decisions are being made. If that were to happen, rather than just getting an email saying, hey, we need to talk, especially from someone I never met, and hearing, hey, we're changing your entire, plan, especially with my wife and 3 boys now. We were very excited and eager for that assignment, but I will say, and especially getting an assignment like Minot, it has that negative tone. It was an absolute blessing in disguise. I was put in charge of recovering that B-52 engine when it had that bird strike in flight in negative 70-degree weather. So that was a challenge in itself. I was in charge of the snow removal ops during Minot's worst season in history. And then also I deployed to Syria. So now when I reflect back, I'm a little embarrassed on my reaction, because even though it wasn't my chosen path and what I would perceive to be what I wanted, it led ultimately to several doors opening and walking through, and the opportunities just kept compounding. After Syria, I got selected for the Army Sergeant Major's Academy, which was an incredible experience. And contrary to popular belief, once you graduate the Sergeant Major's Academy, you don't levitate. So, hey, I'm just, I'm very fortunate for having the opportunity to go up to Minot. Had a great team, especially obviously with Freddie here, but everyone in there and the culture there, the teamwork there was absolutely phenomenal. And I would say now in my 19-year career, that may be my best assignment.
and I know, number one, I really appreciate you saying that. That happened to me. I was in Germany. I was trying to stay in Germany. There was no reason for me to not stay in Germany. And they sent me to El Paso, right, where the Sergeant's Major Academy is. And so I could not see it at the time. I called everybody. I did everything that I could to get out of the assignment. This is wrong. I've been wrong. This is horrible. I don't need to go here. I need to go back to Fort Bragg and keep jumping out of planes. And I'm a single tech sergeant ready for war and blah, blah, blah. And I go to El Paso. El Paso is one of, if not my favorite assignment. I've got like the squadron emblem tattooed. Yeah, it's just one of those things, right? I met my wife there, and I've got 3 kids, and so, and again, like to that point is, you may not see it, but you need to have some benefit of the doubt. We'll try and talk about that later. But now that my knots come up, right? So 2 guys, same squadron, back-to-back years, 12 OAY. How the hell does that happen? I want to hear it. Who starts?
Well, yeah, to be honest, I'm blown away that even I'm still a 12 OAY recipient. It's like never in my career I always looked at those individuals as, hey, they did everything right, or they were the absolute war fighter, and just changing processes, saving millions of dollars. When really I boil it down, it had nothing to do with me. Like, granted, I had the ability and the mentality to just want to, help out as much as possible. But the team collectively up at Minot is what made it happen. From the leadership all the way from the wing command team down, we were all on, full stride, and it was just a blessing. And it was pretty interesting to see it all come together, like, because we had a pretty big turnaround at that time, but almost immediately we all gelled and said, hey, where are we taking this? And we all got after it, and it was amazing.
Ready?
Man, I would say what a blessing it was to be at Minot. I remember getting my assignment, and I was trying to get a job at Absent on the staff, be an international enlisted engagement manager. 2 days after I found out I didn't get it, I get my assignment to Minot, and I was like, oh man. And somebody asked me, like, what did you do wrong? Who did you piss off?
Yeah.
But arriving here, I have never been welcomed to a unit the way I was welcomed here. And I believe that's where it all started, for me at least, being invested. Sometimes you get places and certain people, sometimes the senior NCO, and everybody's trying to see who you are. Who's this guy coming in? Oh, it's another senior. We got these many seniors. Oh, is he eligible? Is he not eligible? But it was none of that. I mean, these folks welcomed me and my family into the unit. I could recall the first day I saw Colonel Altman in the hallway, and the connection that was built. And I think that's what it all stems to the family. It's always funny when I talk to people around the unit, and I like, if somebody had to ask you, what does it mean to be a war bull? What would you say? And I mean, some of the words that come up is family, a relationship. It's just a teamwork. Some of the things that you hear. And what I would say, it definitely, like Max talked about, definitely, I believe, started with our squadron leadership, Colonel Matthew Altman and Chief Justin Stouffer. Shout out to you 2 individuals. But I definitely believe it started with them. And one thing I used to always love is how Chief Stokes brought all the CNCOs together. And he used to always tell us in the room, hey, Colonel Altman, he commands this unit, but we lead it. And we collectively came together, and we actually used that as one of our mantras. We go fast alone, but we go farther together. And it was just a real team. We found time to connect with each other. I remember the weekend after I got here, I don't know if this was done purposely or not, but in my mind, it was done for me purposely. But we all went downtown just to have dinner, outside the uniform, and build a relationship, had some good conversations over some good adult beverages, of course, and just the fellowship. But those small things that we did really connected everybody. I could pick Mac's brain all the time. Another one of our buddies, JB, that we could always push and pull stuff off of each other to make each other better. But it was never about none of us at all. It was always about how can we showcase that we're a united front as a team, as a senior NCO Corps, but to develop and empower our team members because, you know, whatever we show them is what they're going to mock. You know, if we show them bad, they're going to mock the bad. If we show them the positive of how we are together as connected as a team, they're going to want to connect together as a team. So our 5-6 started doing the same thing, re-engaging, going downtown just to fellowship together. But it was just amazing on this place to me, like, you know, the connection that we built. And again, you know, winning it, I wouldn't, like Max said, I don't think it was anything I've done. I definitely believe Chief Stolfus was very strategic in how he looked at his entire team, make sure he pushing and posturing everybody for in different ways. But he knew what everybody brought to the table. Like Matt got some skills I can't even mock or imitate, you know what I'm saying? But we knew we had that part of the team, and vice versa. You know, we could all collectively come together and bring some stuff together. And I think the united front was something that I saw that was huge. Us on Fridays just getting together, Mac, and going around the shops so they can see the CNCO core together, so they can't mom and dad us. You know, well, I get Mac to do it, but I can't get Senior Morgan to do it. You know, they already knew when they came to somebody, it was going to be the same conversation, because we were all, I mean, Mac, we get into some good conversation about discipline review boards and everything, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, some of the best. What I absolutely loved, man, was it didn't matter how crazy the idea was. It was just like, yeah, we got to make this happen.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, this is going to be some crazy shit. I'll tell you that, especially when we upped the prime beef days, man. Like, you just seen people excited, like, hey, what are they going to have for us today? And like, all of a sudden we have support from the Helo squads, and they're just like, yo, let's keep it going. And then it didn't matter whose idea it was. We all had each other's back to just get after it. And that, like, I cherish that.
You remember, you think about how well the CNCO initiation course that we got together on, how well that just brought us together. But what the end goal was, it wasn't even about us, although it brought us together tremendously. But the development we had on those individuals, you know, they still scream and rave about it to this day. You know,
two words or three: Master Sergeant Motivator. Oh
yes, indeed.
Man, that thing was a beast.
Yeah. You got to sit here reminiscing, Chachi.
No, see, that's awesome, because, well, my first thought is obviously 12OAY is a representation of what you individually did without any help from anybody at all, you know, throughout your career, right? So obviously that's an absolute farce. So to hear you guys talk about your teammates, what I'm trying to get you to talk about you, I think is just indicative of the caliber of individual and human beings you two are. That you're I'm hearing it's more of a team win than an individual accomplishment, and that absolutely warms my heart.
Yeah, absolutely, Chachi. Like, whenever I think of it, like 12OAY, it has nothing to do with me. Granted, I am very appreciative for that recognition and honor, but my first thought is to go to Freddie, JB, Colonel Altman, Chief Stoltzfus, and the rest of the Minot team, and just how united we were. And I ended up benefiting from it. And I hope I was able to do just as much for them as they have done for me. So,
you know, the thing I appreciated about getting to the 12OAY was all the celebration we did. We always found the time to come together to drink some Warbowl water. Mac, you know what I'm talking about. But just those times where everybody just come through just to celebrate. Oh man, you wanted the wing, let's take some shots, you know what I mean? Oh, you won 8th Air Force, let's take some shots, you know what I mean? So that, you know, to see the family come together, and I know Chief Stokes always talks about it, you know, people want to be a part of a winning team, right? And I think we were fortunate to do some winning, although Mac and I were able to get 12 Outstanding Airmen a year. But I mean, our unit was named, you know, #2 best large CE units in the entire Air Force. You know what I mean? Emergency Management Flight of the Year for the Air Force. So it was a lot of good things that we did as a unit. But it still goes back to the culture that was there, the family culture that we built within our unit that led to all of those different positive success stories.
Yeah. And also that, like, what we're doing together, even post, you know, within the same unit, we still get on the phone and chop it up. I probably get at least 3 or 4 text messages from Chief a week, you know, just, throwing some crazy memes out there at each other. But, that's the type of unity and family we had. And, granted, it was amazing to be a leader within that, but I was just privileged to be a part of that. So it was awesome.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Well, guys, congratulations for that. And, there are a lot of, I get certain texts when I'd go around in my time as a command chief. There's that, we talk about the whole frozen middle, right? So you talk about like the middle tier NCOs who are having a tough time either identifying or connecting to the Air Force and or identifying and connecting to their specific job, their unit, how that plays out. What bit of advice would you have for them moving forward? What should they try and set up for themselves, or what are just some kind of tricks of the trade would you want to share with them to help them find success and hopefully a better opportunity or a better understanding of the Air Force writ large and how this goes together? Freddie, we'll start with you.
The thing I think about, I know I talked about it earlier, is stretching your rubber band. I feel like I wish I had a rubber band here, but I always talk to the team a lot. If you grab a rubber band and you just place it down on the table, it's going to fall into some type of shape or form, and it's in a comfortable state, right? It's in a comfortable state. Yep. It's in a comfortable state, but if you grab that rubber band and you pull it to the left, to the right, nothing happens to that rubber band. Nothing happens to that rubber band. So I talk to the team a lot about that, just because sometimes we get comfortable in what we are and what we're doing. So I would say, find ways to stretch your rubber band. Also, as a mid-level supervisor, I definitely believe being a staff sergeant, like I mentioned earlier, was one of the hardest stripes for me, because you're like literally, in a sense, kind of responsible for somebody else for the first time. You're supervising somebody, and there's a lot that comes with that. And that individual, I remember my first airman that I had was right out of tech school, and he needed me at that time to pour a lot into him. He needed a lot of different direction. But I found myself not doing a good job until I really sat down and understood him more. You right? Because I could come with all of these things, like you talk about the pyramid. I could say, all right, we got to check this box right now. But at the time, maybe he wasn't ready to check this particular box. I needed to focus on a different aspect first, so we can go through that box, so we get through that box. So he taught me a lot about like myself as a supervisor. He stretched my rubber band, in terms of having to be into the commander's office. But it wasn't like he was a bad individual. He was just learning how to be an adult. You know what I'm saying? And just, oh, my bad, I made a mistake. I was late, and I remember being late, but I was at my girlfriend's house. I'm sorry, I was just late. I wasn't trying to be a bad guy. But really, I would say he taught me how important. And when I say the word feedback, it's not feedback, every 6 months, and you got to sit down at this time. Like, he taught me how to have real good conversations with them and give them ways to get better. And depending on some of how we go next, I'll probably talk about some goal setting, but we talked a lot about different steps that he can take in order to move forward, to get to where he needed at the time. So that's what I would say to some of my guys, stretch your rubber band, please. Don't be afraid to try something new, try something different. And that opportunity allow for somebody to give you some feedback on how well you performed. But also, again, I know we keep talking about it, and you hit on it on Friday too, the connection that is built through working with your new team member is important, because every airman that you get are not going to be the same, but they still need you to pour into each one of them, though. You can't say, oh, well, he's the easy one, so here you go, everybody, and don't worry about the one that just needs more of you. Right. That's what I would give to my mid-level supervisors and my supervisors.
And I think that's absolutely fair. Some people in that instance don't need much pouring. Some need more, and they need different pours at different times. And so I absolutely spot on. I think that's huge. Mac.
So one thing I would emphasize is, if leadership was easy, everyone would be a damn leader. So that's not the case. All right. I would take a step back, be your absolute self, but also be humble enough to see, hey, where do I fit in the dynamics of this team? Where can I emphasize some of my strengths and maybe build on some of my weaknesses? Because I know, for instance, man, if I'm just in the room with Freddie, like I feel his energy and I'm just like, ready to either start clowning or start getting after it. And, what he needed, I would be there because I was learning and growing from him and developing those relationships that aided in not only my growth and development, but also I was helping out the team. So rather than focusing on me and being selfish and all that, I took that out of the equation. And what I found was by being my absolute best self, I was making the team stronger. But I also had to know when to take a step back, take a sidestep, and just allow those that were absolute better than me in particular areas to thrive. So in essence is understanding the operational environment you're in, because as you PCS to another area or another duty station or, wherever the case may be, it's not going to work always the same way it did in one location. So you have to analyze the entire situation and see where you are or what piece of the puzzle you are in that greater whole puzzle. So that's the advice I would give. Just be yourself and then see where you fit in and just make it happen. It's about the team, not about yourself.
You bet. Fair. Phenomenal response. And one last question, one last thing about 12 OAY before we take it into our break is, if there's an airman out there who's got a goal, right? If they want to be a 12 OAY one day, what advice would you have for them? And Mac, we'll start with you.
I would say, just kind of in line with what I just said, be your absolute best self, and the laws of attraction will kind of take flight almost naturally. When people see you day in and day out and your consistency of just giving it 100% all the time, stepping out maybe out of your comfort level, like maybe approaching, say for instance, your leadership, like, hey, where can I learn and grow, and be receptive to that feedback, not just, hey, all the good stuff, like be receptive to the negative, or maybe not even negative, maybe just some of your weaknesses, and saying, all right, well, I know now that I need to improve in public speaking, or I need to improve in job knowledge in certain areas, and just putting your attention and your love, blood, sweat, and tears into those areas and becoming consistent, not just when it's, best for you, but when it's best for the team. I think that's a recipe for success in anything that you do. Just make sure that you're giving it your 100% all the time. And I would be very shocked if anyone ever said to me, Mac doesn't, believe this stuff, because I try to think that I do my absolute best in everything, whether it be relationships, whether it be professional or personal growth, or whether it be sometimes in celebrating 100%. So just give it all you got, and people naturally take notice.
Right. Awesome. Freddie.
If I could touch on it, I would say focus on what you can control. I know, speaking to some of our team members, and you hear some of the frustrations, some of it is stuff that they cannot control, right? But then the things that they can control, they haven't paid enough attention to it to reshape that, revive that, revitalize that, whatever cool words we want to use. Where's my notebook at? But whatever cool words you want to use. But sometimes there's so many different opportunities with what you really just control within your section, shop, or even just unit, that you can have a real good impact on. And the thing I like is on some of our team members, they've known that about me now. So they like, I'm gonna focus on what I can control, and they'll come up here and make it a big deal. But what I appreciate about it is that they've done the homework. They understand how we can reshape and change some stuff. And for some that know me real well, I'm not saying I'm not an AFI guy, but I do believe we can't just let it just be end all be all, right? Somebody, depending on what position we get to, we can rewrite it, right? But, you know, as you deal with it on a day-to-day basis, you know, the internal facts of it. And yes, it may work the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, but right now here it might not be the best way of it, right? So there's some controlling I have of that and just highlighting some of those things. And I have some team members that do a good job of highlighting some things that we need to change. And you know, and they bring it, and it's like, man, I see it, you know. And I think about our APA perimeter lights. It was a big deal here at Minot, and he came to me and he showed the hurt, you know, and we end up getting it funded, and they just repaired it. So just focus on the things that you can control. Is one of the biggest things I feel like just helps, because now you have a piece of this pie, and it's your pie. And if you could focus on this pie, you can make it the best damn pie. I just want your slice of the pie, because you done focused on it. You did well with it. So that's one of the things I think about.
You bet.
I love the fact that you said that, Freddie, because I had a conversation recently with one of my NCOs here, and it pretty much turned on like, hey, we got to be, you know, this specific and this professional and X, Y, and Z. And, you know, the Air Force needs that. And I'm like, hey, man, I did try to change the entire Air Force is a burden that I could not fathom. Okay. Mm-hmm. But what I can change is our culture within our scope of responsibility. Yes. And as long as my head and heart are in the right place, and I'm trying to make it better, not only for our unit, but all the airmen within it, that's going to spread over an entire generation. I just loved how you related that. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah, power.
Yeah, you know, and again, this goes, we're right in line with everything that I believe to my very core. And it kind of comes down to, neither one of you said it. I will like, don't focus on being 12 OAY. That is a byproduct of you being awesome, right? Focus on being awesome. That's a byproduct. Don't focus on getting promoted. Focus on being awesome. The promotion is a byproduct of your awesomeness. And like, we're talking leadership. Don't focus on leadership. Focus on connection. Leadership's a byproduct, right? And so like some of these things, I'm hearing from you guys in spades. And so I am really looking forward to the second half of our interview. So everybody stay tuned. We will be back here after our break with Senior Master Sergeant Wilfred, Freddie, Morgan, and Senior Master Sergeant Phil, McAlpin. We'll see you soon. Okay, everybody, welcome back from break. This is Chachi again here with Freddie and Mac. And Mac, we'll kind of start with you. During break, we had a conversation about some of our concepts and understanding of time and careers, right? If you wouldn't mind, would you go ahead and elaborate on some of those concepts for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that I wish I would have realized and known sooner in my career is just how quickly all this time is going to pass. I still remember to this day, my first base was Shepherd Air Force Base, and I arrived to my duty station after tech school without my one stripe on, my mosquito wing. So after getting a pretty stern talking to, I remember taking my uniforms, going to the BX, and getting everything sewn on. I could still visualize the BX. I can still, you know, smell and see and understand what was going on. And in the blink of an eye, here I am, 19 years later, you know, Senior Master Sergeant. And I'm just in awe of how quickly all that took place. And a lesson that I would like to know, or I would like to preach and pass on, is like, just learn to love every second, good, bad, indifferent, positive, negative, whatever the case may be, because you can very easily, you know, get caught in that negative mindset and that trap of like, oh, I can't believe I'm here at Minot, which was one of the best assignments I could ever imagine. Or, you know, like someone in Cannon, or those unfavorable assignments that actually end up being blessings. And then what you can't get back is that time. So if you could refocus your time and, you know, focus on yourself, and hey, I can't control where I'm stationed at, like we mentioned earlier, but you can focus on, hey, how am I going to best use this assignment or situation to learn and grow from? And once you make that cognitive decision on like, hey, I'm here, I can't control it, like you can drop all that dead weight and then learn to be productive and the best teammate you can possibly be.
So that's kind of awesome. And Freddie, we'll kind of kick that over to you. Mac was talking about how, the thing he wished he would have known sooner was like this concept of time and how that plays out. What do you wish you would have known sooner?
Well, tying in that concept of time is the power of goal setting. I can recall being just the NCO. I remember the staff sergeant. I guess staff sergeant was that year that really shifted me. But I remember being a staff sergeant, and I walked down the hall and somebody asked me, "How you doing today?" "I'm just here." You know what I mean? But once I really started shaping my mindset in terms of having real lined out, defined goals that I wrote down, I walked down the hallway and people asked me like, "How are you doing today?" I was more excited because I was working towards something. I was way more excited when I was just living the day to day. I felt like I wasn't walking with confidence or anything. But once I found for me the power of goal setting and really, at the time, I couldn't see 5 years from now in the military, but once I was able to really define, what my why was, that was huge shift for me, and it changed on how much my resiliency, how much I was able to be resilient through things, at the time when I would face a certain adversity, when I didn't have any real goals aligned. At the moment, it would be the hardest thing for me, but once I found out, the power of goal setting, I wrote everything down. I knew where I wanted to get to. Once I had adversity, it was just another opportunity to showcase my strength and resiliency. So, that goal setting was huge. I remember sitting down and really writing down what do I want to see, and really shaping it and putting in day-to-day action on getting there. It ended up really for me being life-changing. One of my cousins used to always, I remember when he was looking to buy his first house, I remember he used to drive this same block that he wanted. He's like, "I'm buying a house here." He took a photo of it. He put it on his fridge. Every day he went into the fridge, he would see it. Upstairs in his bathroom, when he was brushing his teeth and getting dressed in the morning, he would see it. So it was real defined for him. He knew what he was working for. So it kept him up late at night. It woke him up early in the morning because he understood the hustle and the things he needed to do to get there. So for me, being able to see some of those things and really defining, okay, what do I really want? What's passionate to me? And how could I be of value? And what do I really want out of life? Once I start writing that down and putting it down on paper for me to see it, it really changed my mindset. So that some of that time, like Mac was talking about, time goes by so fast. I remember my first enlistment, I only signed up for 4 years, and that 4 years went by so fast. And I wasn't even prepared to get out because time flies. I didn't have no goals. So I wouldn't say I had to stay in the military. Like, I didn't have I still needed to start my first 4 years all over again, actually, because I hadn't made no real progress. But really being able to sit down, define what I want, put it down on paper. I remember we started doing vision boards as well. And everything works for everybody differently. But those were things that I can see and it'll keep me driving. Like I said, help me build my resiliency, because at one point in my life, my resiliency wasn't strong. But again, I didn't have no real goals. I was just living day to day with no confidence, but it really reshaped me. And I don't know, for me, the power of real defined, deliberate goal setting really changed my mind, my focus, my attitude. I was excited to get up in the morning. Man, God, you gave me a whole nother day to get after this. Oh my goodness. I'm kicking down somebody's door. Let's get it. So for me, that's what I wish I really knew sooner, was the power of goal setting and how instrumental it could be in changing your mindset.
That those I think are just amazing topics. And for me, I was a 6-year sucker, right? So I signed up for 2, I signed up for 4, and then in basic training, I signed up for another 2 more, right, to do that. And it's funny because at 4 years, I would have gotten out. And at 6 years, I knew I was staying in for a career.
Yeah.
And so it was just really weird how that process played out for me, whether it was my lack of understanding of time or my understanding of goal setting and what I really wanted to accomplish. So I watched that like personally affect me during my first enlistment and where I wanted to go with things.
And it's amazing what both of them can do to change your trajectory or your mindset. Like once you realize like, hey, time is something you can't get back, it'll motivate the hell out of you. But also being able to see and visually set those goals and just check them. There's nothing more rewarding. And I remember back when I was getting my CCAF, I had a supervisor. I kept a blank one, blank frame in there, and it had CCAF in it. And we just had a simple conversation. And once he explained to me, like every time I look at it, it just keeps reminding me, kind of like how motivated Freddie is with it. And I was like, I'm going to adopt that. And then once I got my CCAF, I was like, hey, I'm going to keep an empty frame for my bachelor's. And now that I'm working towards my master's, it's, you just got to keep going. And it's crazy how motivated you can get once you make that decision to, take time and set those goals.
You bet. You bet. And that's fair. And so kind of along those lines, not necessarily what you wish you knew sooner, but how about this question? What do you wish every leader knew? And Freddie, we'll kind of start with you there.
What I wish every leader knew. So some of the things I've seen, we get caught up in the mission. And the mission is super important, especially being the only installation in the Department of Defense that houses 2 legs of the nuclear triad. Shout out. But at the end of the day, mission is super important. But man, on how important it is, and I know we keep talking about it, and it's such a big deal for me too, building real relationships with our team members, man. Because even throughout this holidays, our airmen, our team members, they're going through so many different challenges. And, some people affected with this COVID real bad, from parents losing their job. Unfortunately, some of them may have lost a close friend or family to it. So many different things that impact our members, that when you can go about things differently. And sometimes, I wish our leaders knew that real true power of connection, on how instrumental it really is a person, man. You know how much invested you will get a person, like when you call them just to say a random, like, man, happy birthday. You know what I mean? And it's something easy that could be done because you get it from the CSS. You could have CSS posture and pull, but sometimes our leaders forget those small things. And this is a Chief Stolfus right here. I remember I used to ask him, he was so defined on learning everybody's first name and their Air Force story. I mean, he could walk down the hallway and tell you, oh, that's Airman, that's Mac. Oh, Mac has wife, he has 3 boys, his little boy is this and does that. And it was huge. But when you could build that connection, the way I'm about to go into a certain thing, when you ask me to do something, you ask me to, stay coming on the weekend, shit, I'm coming in for Chief Stokes on the weekend, goddammit. I don't care, you know what I mean? Because we built this relationship and this friendship, and everything that he's doing, I feel like it's really genuine. He didn't ask me to, it's just real genuine. And that in turn, building that connection, the mission will be easy. The mission's easy, in my opinion. Like, I want to come to work and work hard. That's too easy. But some things are frustrating me outside, and you haven't even built the connection with me to even know it. And you don't even understand how frustrated I am with some of these things. But once you build that connection, I trust you now to even share those things with you. So now you even know. But when you don't build those connections, you're like, what's wrong with him? He always has a bad attitude. Well, he just lost his mom. If you wouldn't, you know what I mean? So I really wish every leader knew how impactful getting out from behind the desk. People talk about it all the time. Just being engaged with just something random, and really understanding and knowing the team that you really have. And I know kind of getting into the small unit leadership or small team leadership, but how powerful. And we want to say, well, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force didn't do that. Like, that's not where we're going to make the money. I need my squadron superintendent, my commander, my squadron commander to be engaged with the team, because that's what we follow on a day-to-day basis. But I really wish our leaders really knew the strength of their relationship, on how far it can go. And then if you did know that, you could build a culture like the War Bulls. So shout out to the War Bulls.
Nice. So I honestly think that's awesome, right? If you're trying to lead, but don't have a connection, you're just kind of managing, right? And if you're trying to trust somebody, but like without connection, that's just benefit of the doubt, right? And so
Mm.
all these different things play in, but you need to focus on that connection. So I absolutely love that. Matt, go ahead. Same question.
So I would say I wish every leader knew that and just constantly reemphasize that we are all human. All right. I don't know how many times I failed in my career, even the year of the OAY experience. Like I failed numerous times, dozens, maybe hundreds of times, but success isn't built. It's not necessarily a personality trait. It's built on all those failures. So you got to be willing to accept some sort of failure or risk to that, and just keep pouring opportunities to let them learn and grow, and then develop on their own. You hear it time and time again, like I put my pants on the same way as everyone else in the morning. Yeah, but it's at some point that some people forget that, and we just need to reemphasize and reconnect that, hey, yeah, they failed, but did they learn? And that's what should be the true message and true point of those failures.
I absolutely love it. Like Winston Churchill has a quote like, "Success is never final, and failure's never fatal." Yeah. And so like I absolutely love that, and just realizing that, hey, you can be successful in that moment, but if you just stay there and bask in your glory, the world's going to pass you by. Success is going to pass you by, and everyone you were beating before is going to be kicking you in the junk from now on, because you didn't have the presence of mind to try new things or stretch your rubber band, right? And here we are, bringing it all full circle.
Yeah, one thing that was kind of repetitive to me when I engaged with airmen NCOs and anyone that was wanting to hear an OAY was, oh, so you arrived. And I never really understood or appreciated that mindset. If I've arrived to the starting line, because you just got to push all that stuff off to the side. Like, yeah, yesterday was a victory, but there's a whole new battle today, and let's get after it. God gave us a blessing to just, keep moving forward and waking up and getting after it. So I love it.
You bet. So along those lines, right? You've each had different journeys, right? You've each done something unique that not the whole of the Air Force is going to get to go to, whether it's going to be MTL or whether it's going to be a black hat down at Fort Benning, right? So, but like what inspires you, right? In whatever context, leadership wise, personally, education, just like development or whatever, just on a daily basis, what can you point to and say, you know what, this inspires me? Mac, we'll start with
you. So I've been, like I said, very fortunate and grateful to those who paved the way for me to be successful today. Whether it be my parents, who both held down at one time 3 jobs apiece, that gave me a good, respectable, and fun childhood, and I owe it to them. I owe it to, we all heard the phrase, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And I truly believe that, from, Chief Carl Deutsch, who took the time and actually was willing to have conversations with me as an A1C. Not only that, but took the time to come to Fort Bliss after I graduated the Sergeant Major's Academy and just, have a talk. Having those relationships, just, and paying it forward, because that's what we owe to them, to make sure that future generations have those same connections and are set up for success later on. And most importantly, to me now, I have 3 young boys and an absolutely incredible wife. I owe it to them absolutely every day to come and do what's right, not only for my unit, me personally or professionally, but I owe it to them to try to give any sacrifice back to them, because there's no way in hell I would have gotten anywhere without my wife, and also the motivation to be a good father to my boys. So it's right there. I mean, you could say it sounds cliche, but that I boiled it down to those, and I love it, and that's what keeps me going.
If the truth is cliche, it's just the truth. You know?
Yeah.
And that's Freddie, how about you?
Man, what inspires me, man, I promise, like the look on the face of some of our team members when they're like so excited. I guess it reflects back to when I came in, right? But the look in their eyes, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so hopeful. And that really inspires me. And the thing that always makes me a little nervous about that is that sometimes we fail them. And that's when they lose that hope. And I want to get out this Air Force. But like, that's what inspires me, that they're coming in so like anxious, excited, happy to be a part of what we have going on. And we owe them, to Mac's point, we owe them the right engagement, leadership, conversations, connections, development to help move them along in the world as an individual, man, woman, you know, not just as an airman, you know, help grow them. But that like truly inspires me. I mean, I could think of one of our team members, Airman Beltran, you know, the look on his face when he got here, you know, he's just so hopeful, you know, the Airman Howards, the Eric Tuckers, you know, then also, man, my son, you know, I think about my son being a role model, like, you know, I see him, Daddy, I love you. I want to be you when I grow up, you know, like, oh shit, I got work to do. Let me make sure I'm on my game, you know, let me make sure I'm on my game because, you know, right? You know, sometimes they say you can only do what you see, right? So depending on my behavior, how I interact with certain things is what his first thought would be. Yes, maybe good or bad. He may have to educate himself because Daddy's still learning some things too. But, you know, that's going to be his first thing he goes back to. Like, well, Dad did it this way. This time I'm going to go into it. So a lot of that, I guess, drives me and fuels me on a day-to-day, you know, on how we engage and interact with our team members, and how am I as a role model for my son that's only 5 years old and he wants to be daddy, you know? So those things what inspires me right now.
So great answers. And at the risk of, I hope this isn't repetitive, right? But I think on the off chance that we haven't necessarily touched it, so like the keys to your success, right? What would you say they are? And then specifically, like, I'm not sure, again, like we may have covered it, other than we haven't said that specifically, right? We said some different things. So keys to your success. What would you say, Freddie? We'll start with you.
First, I would start with the foundation my mom and dad laid into me. I definitely think that was on how I was raised. Definitely firm hand, but how I was raised. But I definitely give them a lot of credit. But in terms of the military keys to success, it's been able to really see and been fortunate enough to be around some great individuals. You know, I think I talked about Chief Benjamin now, you know, the first person that reported to me. Honestly, even before him, I remember seeing my MTL, didn't even know the guy, to be honest. I promise you, I don't even think he was an MTL in my squadron. But when I saw him in his uniform back in the BDU days, I mean, he just looked like he was marching everywhere. He was so clean, defined. I'm like, damn, I want to do that. I want to look like that, right? So keys to success, I give a lot of credit to the mentors that I've literally been fortunate to be around. And I'm gonna go through them. I gotta throw up the names, and I'm gonna go with Benjamin. I'm gonna go with Chief Nurse, Chief Clark, Chief Stofus, Major Porsche, who was my commander when I was in NTL, Chief Brown now. All of them, none of them were chiefs, but I remember Chief Clark told me one day, he was like, man, I'm gonna lay the foundation. I'm gonna just step in it and allow you to step in it too. You know, I'm gonna pave the way for you. And, you know, always been an individual that I could reach out to through different frustrations throughout the career, just different perspective, because my perspective is not always right. You know what I mean? But I would say they have been, in my opinion, my keys to my military success, being able to run across some great individuals who were passionate about people and were very selfless in their development. You know, and I know I talked a lot about him, about Chief Stofus, but man, what a good human being. Like, he's just a good, and I know you talk about just being a good dude. Like, he's one of those individuals, just a genuinely good person. So to be able to watch them interact and try to just model some good behavior. You know what I mean? Just being a good person is what I would say. But definitely, I have to go back to my mentors and instilling some real, not only discipline, but hustle in me, grind that I saw them do that made me like, all right, that's what it looks like. Even becoming a senior NCO, I gave all credit to Chief Nurse and Chief Clark at the time. They weren't even chiefs, but they showed me what a senior NCO looks like in United States Air Force. What did that really mean? Chief Stokes showed me like what a squadron superintendent really is. But I would say those have been my keys to success, being able to watch some great individuals be passionate about people.
Okay. That's awesome. Awesome. Mac.
Ditto. No, to be honest, I have to, hands down, I have to give it to my wife is my foundation. When we met, I was in one of those transition periods, and she guided and steered me to, make goals and, supported me in everything that I've done. And I am truly appreciative of what she has not only done for me, but also the sacrifices. And it kind of puts it all into perspective when now I look when someone comes to me like for information on assignments and stuff, that one of my first pieces of advice, like, hey, have you talked this over with your spouse or significant other? And, that creates dialogue. And normally I get feedback like, hey, thank you, because I thought, she was willing to do, me being gone 240 days out of the year, when really that probably would have deteriorated their relationship. So first and foremost, my wife has been my rock and foundation. But reflecting back, I don't know, like I said before, there are so many times that I failed, and I could have very easily have just said, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe I should change my goals, X, Y, and Z. But I have the 100-to-1 ratio. For every 100 failures, you may get that one bit of success, and that's what you need to build off of. Do not let any failure stop or slow your progression for you reaching your full potential. Whether that be late bloomer, I made tech incredibly quick, I think, as far as for me and my maturity level, but then I remained a tech for probably like another 7-8 years. But once I took that time to learn and grow, I was able to become an even stronger senior NCO. And just like Freddie said, the keys to my success, I also have to, pay homage to all the leadership and mentors that were patient enough to lead, guide, and develop me. I'll do some name dropping as well. Chief Armstrong, Chief Carl Deutsch. There's just honestly too many to name, but I'm truly appreciative for them having the time, patience, and understanding to see the potential in me and take me to that next level at the appropriate time that they felt I needed that message or that boot in the ass, if you will.
Fair. Great answers, guys. So now let's just kind of get into some of the fun parts of things where we get to learn more about you, right? So now we'll talk about some favorite books or movies or podcasts or quotes or TED Talks or anything that you go to for further in inspiration to help guide you, things of that nature. Mac, we'll try and start with you there. So anything that you would want to share with us?
So one, I want to share something that I brought to my team. I'm in my office right now, but I'm going to bring it over, and I call it the Dirty Dozen. But I have, just some books that I keep on hand that have been really influential on guiding my thought process. And when I have feedback, they're open to any of my airmen or whoever's interested in signing them out. But I ask in favor that they write a 300 to 500 word just synopsis on what stood out to them. It doesn't need to be the entire book as a whole, but if there was one chapter, one paragraph, one sentence that really drove an aha moment, then let's sit down and talk about it. And if they're willing to, share it with their shop or their work section, just to kind of create some dialogue, because I think it's important to understand what I'm thinking in my leadership philosophy in order for them to emulate it and then also spread that knowledge. So I keep that on hand, and it's been pretty successful. But within there, I could tell you so many lessons learned. David Goggins can't hurt me. I mean, I listen to his podcast, or I'll be on YouTube and I'll just type in David Goggins and see what crazy shit he's up to nowadays. The dude's an absolute monster.
He and I were in high school together.
Yeah, really? Man, that is awesome. Was he a beast at that time, or was he still going through that transition period?
He was a physical specimen then, like same exact person as he is now. After he got up, that's when he kind of ballooned in weight and doing all that, and then obviously went into the Navy and did all that stuff. But yeah, just always been a phenomenally motivated, and just you want a type A plus. That's it.
Yeah. And then one of the experiences up at Minot that I hold near and dear to my heart is I got to listen to Clint Romesha, Medal of Honor recipient. I keep his book that's signed here in my office, that just drove home so many points on, like, at those critical times, it's about being the leader and about the team. And if you're lacking on either one of those, it could lead to ultimate failure, which he absolutely did not succumb to. He's an absolute great American and badass, and I absolutely love everything he endured. But that's something near and dear to my heart. Colin Powell's It Worked for Me, just for his journey from coming from Jamaica to attending college in New York, and then becoming a commissioned officer in the Army and rising to, Chief of Staff of the Army, and then our, Chief of Staff, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Chairman to Secretary of Defense, and so forth. I just love his journey because he paints it so simple. And that stood out to me on how to connect with different levels of leadership, that I always try to share that, especially with our younger lieutenants. I can go down the road of Simon Sinek. If you haven't read it, there's definitely lessons to be learned in there. And I love his time that he did with the Marine Corps. You have a lot of good teamwork there, but also just like, stuff about your heritage. Reading stuff about our engineers in Vietnam and leading the way and all that stuff, how the Red Horse program was developed and initiated. That stuff's near and dear to my heart because I'm a part of that heritage. And that's something I hope to pass on. I'm trying to think of other podcasts that stood out. Jocko Willink, his Extreme Ownership wasn't there. It's loaned out right now. But just, you can approach it from 100 different angles on what you take away from it, and having those discussions. There's something in there that maybe I didn't necessarily latch onto, but hearing it from a young airman, hearing it from an NCO, even a senior NCO or peer, or maybe even the commander, at varying levels, you just get different insight on maybe what their focus and are drawn to, and it just makes that cohesiveness that much stronger. That I'm appreciative to. So I was not an avid leader or leader. You hear leaders or readers, right? I was not an avid reader until my deployment in Syria, but I took that time. There's nothing else to do there. But I ended up finishing 17 books, and I formed that habit of reading. So now I try to read one book a month, and I normally wake up to Jocko or David Goggins typed podcast that really gets my gears going in the morning. So that's just some of the stuff that I do.
Roger that. That's awesome. Freddie, how about you?
So favorite quote for me is only thing constant in life has changed. Just really trying to, like we talked about a little earlier, people get so connected, like, oh, well, it says this is the only way, or this is what it did in my last base. You're not there anymore. So let's reshape that. But that's like one of my ones. You know, one of my books that I really like to, again, talk about Staff Sergeant. For me, first time I actually read a book, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't tell you my age, but how old I was. But one of my civilian mentors gave me, I was really struggling mentally, to be honest. But he gave me the book Never Give Up by Joyce Myers. And it really reshaped my thinking a little bit. And, in there, she talks about a story with the eagles hanging out with the chickens and all that. And we could talk about different ways we've heard that story. But for me, that really connected me to a lot internally and shaped it. Some other books that I like, Go for No was a real good one. Matt kind of talked about that a little earlier, where, out of 100 no's, there's a yes. But when you go into something seeking for 100 no's, when you do get a yes, you're like, oh man, I was trying to get more no's, so it really changed my mindset on how I go about certain things. Another one for me is The Secret of Success by Eric Thomas. That was a good one for me. But normally in the morning, even this morning, I wake up to a little Inky Johnson. One of his favorites, one of the ones that I like a lot is It's Not About You. I mean, I could hear that one number of times and still get all fired up. But, as he tells his story about, living in a house in Georgia with his 14 family members, and, the steps and why it was so important for him to go to a school, the local school where the dropout rate is more than the graduation rate. I mean, you guys probably heard the story, but it gets me all fired up just hearing this story. And he talks about that it's not about you. It's not about you. And I think about that all the time, even like with my son that I talk about, like, it's not about me. Like, he's watching what I'm doing, as I walk out of the office on a day-to-day basis, the way I act, interact, and do certain things. Individuals are watching me. And I told a story about my MTL when I was going through tech school. He didn't even know who I was, but I just saw him from a distance, and the way he looked, like I wanted to be that. So I don't know if he purposely did that, but what he did set an image for me. So hopefully it wasn't about him. But, I think about that even when I was at MTL, never met him a day in my life. But when I was in MTL, I reverted back to that. So I think about that. It's not about you quite a bit in terms of how we interact with people and what people. And I know even another one that I always keep in mind, and Mac, you probably remember this, Chief Stokes would always talk about the trash can or the haircut. Yep. And he'd be like, it's not about the goddamn trash can. But, like, if the trash is full and we just walk by it, Senior Master Sergeant Morgan walks by it, Airman, whoever, Tech Sergeant, whoever sees you walk by, guess what they're going to do? They're going to walk right by it as well. And he's like, it's not about the trash can. Yeah. So I always think of that when I, listen to some of Inky's story when he talks about it's not about you. But those are some of the things that I indulge myself in as well.
Yeah. And I would say also, Chachi, is like just pulling some of those things that work so well for so many others and maybe putting them in your toolbox. Like when I was reading Can't Hurt Me, and he just wanted to, seal, do this, change his life. Like I remember putting Post-its on my mirror, like get after it, and it sounds cheesy, but to be honest, that shit motivated the hell out of me. And I'm pretty grateful for that. And another thing, just for lessons learned, my favorite quote or saying or passage is "The Man in the Arena" from Theodore Roosevelt. Because how many times that, even everyone wants to kind of like look at all your failures, but then there's also those that see your success and they want to question that. But you have to make that decision. And I always want to be the man in the arena, and that shit motivates the hell out of me whenever I read it. And then I look for those that are trying to be the man in the arena, and I'm like, let's get after it together. So,
you bet. And like even the struggles that I had in my career, I hadn't heard the quote at the time, and I heard it just in the most recent years. Right? They're like, hey, stop looking in your rearview mirror. You're not going that way.
I like it.
And so that really affected me personally. Like that, whatever's behind me, that doesn't define me. I get to choose what define, and so I'm absolutely there. Thanks for those answers, guys. That's a whole wealth of different stuff to pull from. So along those lines, what do you guys do to make sure that you can present the best version of you to the world? What do you do to restore your soul? Or as I'm fond of saying, what do you do to put on your oxygen mask to take care of you? And how does that play out? And so Freddie, we'll start with you.
You know, on the day to day, depending on these random meetings, on a day to day, if I can, you know, right now, you know, I'm thankful to stay on base or whatever. So I go home to the house, you know, have lunch with the wife a little bit. And if I could steal me a good 15-minute nap, man, it really refreshes my mind. You know, on the day to day, you know, normally when I come into the office too, you know, I like to put up some real good upbeat. I go to my Frankie Beverly and Mays, you know, before I let go, whatever. Really gets me excited, gets the juices flowing for me. You know, if I could, you know, another thing that I do a lot too is stretch, man. For me, you know, just getting a good one in, you know, throughout that time, you know, especially after if I can get that nap in, after that nap, it really goes to restoring me. And then depending on, you know, the pace of what's going on in the day to day and how cold it is, if it's not -70, you know, taking a quick walk outside to get some air. I know in the summertime, man, the summertimes in Minot they're beautiful. They are truly beautiful. So I like to spend a lot of time outside in that summertime to get some of that good fresh air. And then, you know, if I really can, I'm gonna throw on a good playlist, jump on my motorcycle, and enjoy that and enjoy it. To be honest, so those are some ways I take some time to, you know, recharge my battery.
You bet. That's great. Awesome, Freddie. Mac, how about you, brother?
So growing up, I was just one of those wild, like, hey, I need to get into something or, you know, do something crazy. So I used to skydive quite a bit, scuba dive, anything that kind of get the blood racing. But what I learned is that was good for my adrenaline fix, but mentally, spiritually, you know, just for the soul, I need to venture out and do some more. So definitely a man of religion. My faith is very important to me. Spending time with my family and my kiddos. Even though I'm trying, you know, to balance the work-life ratio, I make that a priority as much as I possibly can. Attend church. A few things that have worked. Freddie mentioned stretching. Do some yoga. That I always get a good kind of laugh at that, but hey man, that downward facing dog ain't no joke. Especially the first few times you do it, like you're like, why am I sweating for doing a stretch? But it works incredibly well. Meditative breathing. I picked up a few of those apps that work extremely well, and just try to stay fit and active as much as possible. I try to get outdoors now that I'm in Colorado. Some beautiful stuff to see and do. Me and my wife did the incline not that long ago. If you haven't done it, you absolutely need to make it a bucket list and check that bad boy off. It is a beast. But, you know, once I got it done, I felt like I accomplished something, and it was a physical challenge, definitely a mental challenge, because there's more than quite a few times where I was like, why the hell am I doing this? And then my wife's, you know, call me X, Y, and Z and tell me quit being a little, you know. So he's pushed me up there, and we got to do it together, and it was just a great experience. So anything that kind of gets me, you know, feels like I accomplished something, maybe take a deep breath, or maybe appreciate, be there in a moment, because that view for on top of the incline was absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely. Great answers. And so going into the to the last question here, this is always a fun one for me, because I get a whole random smattering of just different shit. I mean, across the spectrum, right? So Mac, we'll start with you. What would you do in life if money were no object and you knew you could not fail?
Well, I would start a 1980s jazzercise school and just get after it all day. Just kick. We've seen the videos. No, I watched Despicable Me 3 with my boys not that long ago, and we could not stop laughing at the Balthazar Brat character in there. Every time I think of it, I start dying laughing. But to be honest, like I said numerous times in my in this conversation, is I would be happy and content just doing whatever my family wanted or needed. They sacrificed a lot, and I know my boys are young, but I've seen them in my transition from Fort Benning to Minot to Fort Bliss to here now in their young lives, and it takes a toll and an impact on them. So whatever I could do to make them happy and healthy and reach their full potential, I'm all for it. And same thing with my wife, and that would make me happy and blessed. So
you're a good man, Charlie Brown. Very nice. Freddie, how about you?
So I gotta go back and give a shout out to my wife. Mac talked about his wife earlier, and I was like, oh, my wife's gonna shoot me in the leg. Baby, I love you. You've been helpful, beneficial. No, but if I could actually don't have to worry about money and I could do everything. So a big part of me, what I love to do, and I kind of didn't mention it, but I love live entertainment, and there was one point in my life, I actually got a drum set in the house. I love kicking the drums, not the best drummer, but I could kick, and I also, one point in my life, I tried to be a comedian. I was working on, doing stand-up and things of that sort, but I had to step back because, some of the things you want to talk about, get a little extra, for being in the United States Air Force. I had to watch what you say and do. So I stepped back. But the thing I love about live entertainment is, in that moment when somebody's in the audience and they're watching whoever that is, whether it's a musical band or a comedian, they're laughing, they're happy, and they're away from some of the day-to-day issues that they may have in that hour and a half. So if I could do anything without worrying about money, and I was super good at it, I would travel the world and do live entertainment, whether I'm kicking the drums or, being on stage, telling some jokes, making people laugh a little bit. But, and then, like I said, in those moments, you're away from all the craziness, the stressors, and you are so excited and you cheering, whether it's for the band or you laughing, you dying laughing from somebody making you smile. So that's how I would do. I would just travel the world doing that.
Perfect.
I love it, Freddie.
That is absolutely great stuff. So that actually brings us to the end of the podcast, gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time. I'll turn over to you guys for any last comments you would have for us, and Freddie, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, first, give a shout out to the family, leaders that poured into me, teammates, my brother Mac, man, I always appreciate you. I know JB's not here with us. I love him. He's currently downrange. Chachi, opening up this forum for us, just share our perspectives, and hopefully one or two things that we said, hits home to somebody, and they can utilize that as a way to get past a certain thing or to get over a certain thing. So excited, and thank you very much. Look forward to the connection that I feel like I've built with you. I got your number now, so I'm gonna shoot you a message every now and again just to check on you and the kids. But again, I'm super thankful and appreciate the opportunity. Air Power, for those that know me, Air Power.
My pleasure. Awesome. Thanks, Freddie. Mac, how about you?
No, I'm just humbled to have the opportunity. I mean, one, Chachi, I know within your community, you're a legend, and just to be able to conversate and bounce some ideas off you has definitely been a hell of an experience. So thank you very much for that. Freddie, thanks for being not only a brother but a teammate. I got your back whenever, man. And if we get some good news in a few weeks, I'm on the first flight to Minot, brother. I don't care how damn cold it is. We're getting a beer. My wife, family, God, all the above and below, they led me to this point right here, and I'm just truly appreciative, and I'm enjoying the ride. Thank you very much.
You bet, guys. Go ahead.
Can I give one more shout out? I definitely don't want to forget her, Lieutenant Hankerson, who really set this up. I know she came in on board after a lot of conversations was happening over the past few months, but she really made it happen. Her and Chief down at Air Force Global Strike PA really made this happen through some of Max and I ideas, but they actually put it in to work. So super shout out to Lieutenant Hankerson for actually making this come into fruition. Air power.
Yeah, and Command Chief Charles Moose Hoffman. Yeah.
Yeah. Huge shout out for LT. Moose has been great. When he and I did our podcast together, the best part, again, I love that last question because he would be a drummer for a 1980s hair rock band, like
Steel Panther.
Like that's what he would want to do. I'm like, oh, like Moose, I loved you before, and now the man crush is just absolutely, so yeah, so huge. And again, kudos to the Air Force and Major Command like Global Strike, who would reach out and be like, hey, here's a pretty cool story that I think would be great for your podcast. So absolutely love that they reached out. And guys, it was an absolute honor to have you on the show. I feel like we've bonded it and connected, right? So I hope we get to stay in touch. And for everybody out there watching and listening, as I do with all the podcasts, you will find elements of CAPE throughout all of this. We talked about what we care about. We talked about the goal setting, everything you can do to align yourself to achieve what you care about. But we talked ad nauseum about the different perspectives, gaining different perspectives, stretching your rubber band, pouring into others, have other people pour into you. And then lastly, we talked about expectations of you as leaders, as followers, as military members, as family members, the expectations for what you should or shouldn't do, or how you can connect with people, and what you shouldn't be talking about. So this was huge fun for me. I appreciate it. To everybody out there, thank you for spending the time with us, and we'll catch you here next time on the Cape Lead Revolution. This is Chachi reminding you to always educate, anticipate, and dominate. We'll talk to you later. See ya.